Hello, and here is a little video to help deal with a programming request by Martin and anyone else who is interested in this problem with butterfly flaps. The butterfly flaps menu in the Jeti is fantastic, it's really good, but it's not particularly well documented or written up in the manuals, and if you don't understand what's going on, it can get very frustrating. Once you understand how it works, it is absolutely superb. The particular question that was asked was to use a 3-position switch, and I shall use this one here for the purpose of the demonstration, to give different values of up aileron when trying in crow braking. So I'll use it as no aileron, partial up aileron, and the maximum up aileron. If we go here, you'd think the obvious thing to do is set control to be this 3-position switch, but it's not, because that switch will always be interpreted as 0, half and full movement. So if you were to go into the ailerons flaps adjustment and you set a value here, it's 100%, what the switch will give you is 0, 50 and 100. If you were to set the value there to be 50%, the switch will give you 0, 25 and 50. So you'll always get the 0 and the full travel, but the mid position is going to be half whatever the full travel is. And that's a problem if you want something quite different. So the way to do it is use the flight modes. So if we pop out of here, I'll show you, just for the purpose of this demonstration, I've set up 3 flight modes. The original default will have a sort of high aileron and a mid aileron amount of crow braking, and the switch is that 3-position switch. Okay, back to our butterfly flaps. If we come down here, we have to change the flight mode from G to S, so from global to flight mode specific. And that has a very important change down in this menu. In this menu, you've got the value here for your ailerons and your flaps. And although, yes, you've got one for each servo, but there's only one value allowed in a flight mode. So if you've only got one flight mode, or you're using global flight mode, you've got your value there, and your switch would toggle between full and half. By making it flight mode specific, there's a new value in each flight mode. For instance, we'll see default flight mode. Let's turn that to 0. We'll go to mid-flight mode, and we'll turn that to 50, and we'll go to high flight mode, and we'll leave that as 100. So now as I move the switch, you can see we've got independent values for the ailerons on each flight mode. Let's see, because I was talking earlier that the switch would move to half mode. Let's prove that we can change that to a quite different number, 30. So now we can switch between no up aileron, 30%, and 100%. So the mid position of the switch is no longer limiting you to being half whatever the full value is. It's totally independent value. But your servo won't move. And the reason being is, I should have stuck with that at 0. There we go. There is no control for it. Now we cannot set the control to that switch, because remember, the switch position will determine a percentage of whatever percentage we set in here. Which sounds bizarre, but it's 2 percentages will multiply up. The switch position is 0, 50, and 100%. So if we've set 30% as the aileron value, but we say the switch is the switch will now say 50% of 30% and give you 15%. So how do we set a control to work? Well, good old multiplex used to give you a switch parameter called on, which was great. We just set it to on and there you go. Jeti hasn't given us an on, but what they have given us is something called log max. So to get there, it's a logical switch which outputs the maximum, i.e. 1. In other words, it's always on. So we press the plus button to add one, go into logical switches, scroll down to the bottom, and there is log max. Say OK. And we now see that the control is log max, but it's only in the flight mode that we set it in for. So we have to do it in each one of them. So once again into there, add logical switches, log max, OK, and into the high mode, into control, logical switches, log max, say OK. There we are. Now, in each 3 positions, watch the mode. Max is on for all of them. And now, when I move the switch, the servo will go from 0 to 30 to 100. Or whatever values we had set in here. Remember, there's default mode, 30, 100. And I'll just prove it. If I can bring the servo over, don't know if we'll see it. But now if I adjust that value, there you can see the servo moves to that one, that new value. Hope that's been of help. Do get in touch if I can be of any further help. And especially if you want to use proportional controls, or if you want to do the full crow braking with flaps, or I suggest that this is a brilliant menu for just controlling normal flaps, never mind crow braking, which is why Jeti in the last software update renamed it from being the butterfly menu to the butterfly beak flaps menu. And I use this on all my prop models, jet models. It is just a superb way to do it.